We flew all the way to Japan at the hopes of getting to try a Quest 3 VR game early, and spoiler alert, we got in a little bit. We'll talk about that later, but let's talk about the whole Japan trip. Now, some quick history here if you don't know this about me. My mom is actually from Japan, technically Okinawa, so she is Japanese. I am part Japanese, although nobody ever guesses that. So anytime I have an excuse to go, I take it. Well, this is only the second time I've ever been. I've never actually gotten to meet my family. My mom came over pretty early, but I did get to go before with Meta to that Star Wars festival, and this time, well, we just needed an excuse. Me and editor John got to go hang out together, have a little respite, take some time. Also, in the hopes that we booked a 1-hour spot at the Evangelion con to go try and get in and try that game ahead of time. Now, there's never a direct flight out of Portland to Japan, so we always have to connect. You gotta go through LA or Seattle. Luckily, going up to Seattle, it's like the shortest flight ever from Portland. It's like 26 minutes sometimes, wheels up to wheels down. And we did book the cheapest tickets we could. We were way in the back of the plane. We tried that trick where one person takes the window, one person takes the aisle, and you hope no one's in the middle. Of course, there was someone in the middle, so John hopped over into the middle to hang out close to me. I've been replaying through Zelda Breath of the Wild because there is a VR mod coming, but a lot of times with VR mods, it's best to remember how to play the game before you try the VR version. Otherwise, you are in there struggling to remember the game, pulling the headset up to Google stuff. So I've been playing on the Switch, and we just got those Tozo VR AR glasses, whatever you want to call them. So I was excited. I was like, I'm gonna take these on a plane. I'm gonna be playing Breath of the Wild on a 120-inch screen, Switch 2, 4K, yada yada. Those glasses, as I said in the review, still just are not quite there yet. You need adapters and all these things depending on the system. If you have a Steam Deck, plug and play, they're great. But with the Switch 2, I actually couldn't even get the Tozos working yet because they were too new. I had to take my old Rocket ones. I had to order special adapters. I end up finally getting to play it. I have to have a power plug plugged into the airplane's plug, and every time me or John Z slightly bumps it, the thing would turn off. It was a nightmare. Well, then I dropped the whole Switch, slid down the side, fell to the seat behind me where the people were asleep. So it ended up being a very long flight. But we get there, we land. Those of you who have never been to Japan, from the second you land, everywhere you are, the thing that really strikes me about Japan is different than the rest of the world, is you never will think, oh, this feels like the US. Oh, I think I'm in the US here. Like, from the cars, the architecture, the vending machines, everything is different, including the toilets. Although as a big fan of bidets personally, I love that about Japan. So first thing, we get off the airplane, we go through customs, we do all that stuff. And John and I, of course, need the bathroom. So I'm like, enjoy. Editor John is also a believer in bidets because I think one of the Christmases, that was the present we got him. After that, though, I made sure I went over to currency exchange and got some yen so that we could hit vending machines right out the gate. If you don't know that about Japan, there's vending machines everywhere. Although most of them are just drinks now, a lot of people make jokes. There's like weird vending machines and stuff. There is somewhere, but you have to really work to find those ones. For the most part, though, like every block has a vending machine of some sort with drinks in it, water, teas, other Japanese drinks. They're like weird version of Gatorade. So we jump in a Japan taxi and head over to our hotel. It's a little ways away, but we get to see some of Tokyo as we go through. We technically stayed in Yokohama. If you recognize the name, it's probably because of Yokohama Tires. We get into our hotel room, and traditionally hotel rooms in Japan are very small. Now, if you're thinking about like small hotels, we stayed in one years ago in San Francisco where John and I joked we could hold hands from our 2 beds. This was even smaller than that. We had 2 twin beds, and the weirdest thing, the pillow had like some sort of heavy substance on one side, like almost like a grain or something. So when it laid on the bed, it wouldn't get screwed around accidentally. But if you accidentally flipped it over to the night thinking you were gonna put your face on the cool side of the pillow, all of a sudden it was no longer the pad. It was like all of this grain inside. It was weird. But as people say on the Japan bingo list, is you got to go to a 7-Eleven. Although Family Mart is actually more common and kind of the main convenience store it seems like a lot of people go to. But we walked over to 7-Eleven, looked at all the weird snacks and food and things you can get. But something that always strikes me about Japan, there's like all kinds of food, and even the stuff at a 7-Eleven looks pretty healthy. You've got like fish and rice and seaweed, vegetables. Like everywhere you go, the food is cheap and it looks good quality. That doesn't mean there isn't like a hot case of some fried food, but ultimately, like, it's no surprise on a budget, you can kind of eat easily on your way through Japan. The only weird part is it's not like culturally acceptable to eat in a lot of public places. So like you won't see people on the train eating or on a bus eating or like walking down the street eating something. Like you find a dining area and you sit down and you eat, and then you take your trash with you because there's no trash cans pretty much anywhere. We made our way around Yokohama, getting to check out the sights and see what we could see, but we wanted to find some dinner, and I wanted to get all of the Japan experience in with John we could. So we found this one restaurant. It's the type where you go to a vending machine or a kiosk, you choose the number in your party, it pops out a ticket of a table number, you go to that table, you sit down, there's a tablet on the table, you pick that tablet up, it shows you all the different food, you choose it, and then conveyor belts shoot that out to you. Unlike what a lot of people imagine the conveyor belt restaurants are, it's not like there's a bunch of different foods and you grab them off there. No, you order on the tablet, it fires carries it right to your seat where you're at. You take it off and you eat. Cool experience. Editor John got to try some things he's never tried before. But no, we had good sushi, some different fried stuff, and of course some weird stuff. Head back and get some rest. First night in. Next morning we talked about we had to hit a McDonald's because people say, oh, you gotta try one in Japan. They're so different. I've been to a couple now. When I've been there, I've never felt like it's really different, like a bunch of weird stuff on the menu. They'll have a few extra things. They had like edamame and corn. They had much better looking salads than you ever see here. But the thing that strikes you about it is it's very different. It's very quiet. Even so, the couple McDonald's that I've seen, you go in the first floor and that's where you usually order on a kiosk. And then there's not all this dinging of fryers and all this noise happening behind. Like, it's quiet. There's just one person calling out the numbers, and there's even a screen showing those and when your numbers are coming up. You go upstairs then where the dining area is, and it is like silent. There might be one group kind of chatting quietly, but you go up there and you feel like it's just everything everywhere is very reverent. You are quiet, you eat your food, you sort your trash into the trash can in different bins, put everything back. Everything's very clean, everything's very nice. People like really clean up after themselves. It almost feels like no one even needs to come wipe down the dining area. Like, it's that clean when people are done. So we had a pretty early breakfast because there was one thing I knew that I had to take Editor John on. Teamlab Borderless. If you haven't heard of this, there will of course be some footage, some of the stuff we show you, but what I want to make really clear is this is an experience that if you're in Japan, I think you have to go have this experience. And my recommendation is book the first tickets of the day, be there early, so you get to walk in before everyone else is in there. It is a digital art museum is what it's described as. But the weirdest thing is it reminds me so much of like so many different VR experiences I've been through, but in real life. There was even that game, one of the first videos we ever made on the channel back in the day, Blood and Truth, has you walking through an art museum. And there are parts of it that I was like, did they go through this and get their inspiration for this VR museum from this? It's an absolutely amazing experience. There's all different rooms. Like, we got there and John needed the bathroom, and so I kind of raced through the main area because I've been there once and I knew that the main area, although it is really cool, it's where a lot of people get hung up taking pictures, stopping, walking, and beyond that there's way cooler rooms. So if you zoom through that beginning part and start finding the hidden rooms off to the sides, you're gonna get this amazing experience where you're walking through them pretty much alone, which is just really cool. So again, as few spoilers as we can, we're showing you some footage obviously and everything else, but ultimately the videos, nothing does justice for what you're gonna experience when you're there. This is like full sensory perception. It's wild. Highly recommend going there if you're in Tokyo. We walk outside to find some cherry blossoms, even though it wasn't cherry blossom season. We were lucky that they were pretty and blooming and it was really nice. We walked around Tokyo for a while. It's weird how many phone booths are in Japan, these like green phones, and you see them everywhere and you're like, they look well kept up and nice, but are they just a relic of the past? Do they still work? Of course, we had to go up to Shibuya Crossing. If you don't know what that is, if you see it here, you're gonna know. It's in like so many different movies. It's one of these big landmarks of it, but you get there and it's just an intersection. What's wild about it is when that intersection says walk, it's not like they have two crosswalks at a time going. It's they stop all cars. Everybody crosses very quickly and gets out of the road and traffic resumes again. And that's another cultural difference about Japan. You can walk up to a crosswalk sign on a 1-lane road at 2 in the morning. There's not a car in sight. People will wait for that crosswalk to say cross. They will not jaywalk. We tried to not go to a lot of the big like known food places that tourists go to. We tried to just, as we were walking the streets, find a little hole in the wall that was busy and go there. We found this ramen shop, probably the best spicy ramen I've ever had. The food was incredible. And there was only like a lot of the places in Japan, there's only 12 or 15 seats maybe when it comes to lunchtime. So you get in there, you eat and you get out, and they cycle through people fast. Luckily, they're very kind to people they can tell are tourists. So they'll like come up and help you, like, oh, come sit here. Like the people who are from there usually just go in, grab a seat. They know what they're doing, but we always walked in feeling a little uncertain. We of course wanted to also hit on the bingo card, go to a shrine, the Meiji Shrine near Tokyo. We got to walk around and tour it. Absolutely beautiful grounds. It's always really interesting to see how the shrines are often full of tourists. So you have the people there who know what they're doing and are reverent and they're bowing before they walk through and in, and then you have the other people. But it was cool. We got to go in, see it. It was one of the free ones too. A lot of them you have to pay now. But if you ever go to Japan, just please be a good example. There's so many places in Japan that are getting shut down because tourists are leaving garbage and treating it badly. So they just shut the places down completely because that's not the culture. You don't leave a mess behind. You leave everything as good as you found it, if not better. Yeah, it's frustrating to see how that happens places. But the one we went to was nice. There were some people walking through. It looked like having a wedding in the middle of it. But of course, the big draw, the reason that we, at least the excuse that we used to go to Japan, was there is this 30th anniversary of the show Evangelion. If you don't know about that, it's considered one of the biggest animes in the world, especially in Japan, but it is from back in the 90s. So for people who are like joined in on the Attack on Titan phase, you may not have heard of it, but if you see some of it, you're probably going to be familiar with, oh, I see some of the characters, the angels in it. And the event wasn't centered around this VR game. It was centered around the show. It had all kinds of amazing things at it. But another thing about Japanese culture to be aware of is they don't have these kinds of cons like we do and jam 40,000 people in there. Like they'll sell a certain number of tickets per hour. They will only let those people in during that hour to keep the experience nice for everyone who goes. So instead of trying to pump through as many people as they can, make as much money as possible, they keep it to a number of people that is reasonable and will be able to go in and respect the space. Very different than the way things are typically done here. There was 2 different modes that the game had that you could try. We had to choose one. So I wanted to see story mode. I wanted to see the characters from the story. There was also a battle mode that some people were playing outside, which looked really physically active. They were like actually fighting the angels in the Evas. An interesting thing, they chose hand tracking only for the game, at least in the demo. That might come out with controller support, I don't know. Unfortunately, we weren't there. We didn't get to interview anybody specially. This was like just go to the event, buy our tickets, walk in, try it out. But they had a B-haptics vest and the sleeves on. So even though you were touching buttons, the sleeves were still giving you haptics in your arms, which I really liked. And I definitely feel like for games that use only hand tracking, I think that's a great option. But the problem is with haptics, you know, we've talked about that. You've got to have them charged up, paired. One more thing to deal with, where with controllers, they already have the haptics built in. They're already always paired to the headset. They work well. But the game was really cool. The animation style is the anime, which on Quest looks perfect. You're not trying to see some building that looks way too realistic. You're not looking for really real textures. It feels you're in the show. So much so that there was no dubs yet either, so I couldn't understand anything that was being said. It was all in Japanese, and I know very little. But it looked like in the story there were choices ahead of you. There was some moments where you actually got to try and help the Evas in front of you fighting the angels. But it made me very curious if they're going to stick with hand tracking, because like to move your character to run, you like pinched and then moved your hand the direction you wanted to go. And I kind of missed the controller in that phase, especially if you have a controller at home and that has haptics and you don't have these sleeves, it's only hand tracking, you're not going to have any sort of haptics in your hands. All in all, the event was really cool, really beautiful, a lot of amazing sights to see. And then we also punched our Japan card and got on the wrong train. We were going to dinner, we'd found this Japanese barbecue place that we really wanted to go to. It looked really good. They give you all kinds of meat. Tried some very wild meats, including cow tongue and other things. Really good food, interesting cooking it yourself. And again, like this place that had great reviews and everything, I mean, they had 4 tables and a bar with like 5 seats. Very limited space. We went to one of the Don Quixote stores because someone had told me that that's like a big thing you've got to see while you're there. And it's like sensory overload when you walk in. It's kind of like the other side of Japan that you see in a lot of the videos and stuff where there's tons of screens and signs and just oversaturation. Don Quixote, it's this store that's like, it's actually a big store for Japan. Like I think it was 4 levels, and it's just anything you can think of, you can probably find in the store somewhere, from like hunting knives to shoes to Pikachu socks, all kinds of random stuff. Of course, while we were there with editor Johnny, wanted to see some car stuff, so we went to a Nissan showroom. Thought we'd see more. Right now, EVs are really big in Japan, so it was a lot of the EV technology, which is kind of cool. They had like a car split in half, but that took us down to the coast of Yokohama. We went walking. We decided to go to what they call the New American Restaurant while we were there, just to see what their take on it was. But it was wild. We sat down. John got this big burger. I got this yellowfin. We had drinks, and like the whole thing came out to $40 American. Like it's wild, the exchange rate. But food in general in Japan is just pretty cheap everywhere you go. Like obviously you can go to a Wagyu steakhouse, something, get really expensive, but for the most part, your meals are going to be pretty cheap. The hotel we stayed in was like $34 a night. Even the plane tickets, I think, were $800 total for the 2 of us. If you're willing to go on a budget, you can do it. We walked the pier there, and it was just an absolutely gorgeous day that day as we were going. There's also, for people who are in Japan and aren't quite into the idea of, there's all these like small bars everywhere. Like there will be a 8-story building, and every story is a different business, and every story is also like what would be the equivalent of like a big studio apartment in America. You'll go up to the 3rd floor is where the pool bar is. We went to this one place where you could play pool and darts, and it's always like so small. And so there's also these British hubs, they call them. So there's this British pub that's all over in Japan. So if you're kind of looking for a place where you're going to probably meet a lot of tourists and hang out and have it be, you know, a little more comfortable of an experience for people who aren't used to so much traveling or being in a place where you have to speak a different language, those are everywhere. We checked out one, but after all said and done, we weren't there very long. I think we were only 5 days. We had to come back, and of course everybody had requested bring us weird snacks back. So we went to 7-Elevens and bought all kinds of different stuff to bring back, from their versions of Kit Kats to dried squid, which has a very fragrant smell, but not actually like the flavor. We had a lot of time between our checkout and our flight, so I went to the front desk and asked them, is it possible to have a late checkout because it said you could in the check-in, and they didn't want to, not because they needed to clean, whatever, because there was gonna be some construction that day on the floor above, and they thought it would be too noisy for us to enjoy it. Everyone's just, it's always so polite. Everything's so nice. I was like, hey, that's totally fine with us. And they were like, okay, we'll do it for free though. We're not gonna charge you for the late checkout. You can stay there longer. So lastly, we went over to Shinjuku to kind of see another side of it while we were there. Very busy area. People wearing prices and signs on those prices around their necks. But we found another ramen shop, and I used the tiniest bathroom I have ever used, and that includes plane bathrooms. Caught our flight back, and just all in all, it was an awesome trip. It was a lot of fun. If you haven't been to Japan, there is a lot to know and learn. And obviously, if you can get through some conversational Japanese before you go, you'll probably have an even nicer trip. At this point, I just want to say all of this happens. We can do all of this because all of you have been here and supported us all these years. Thank you so much for being here with me. I hope this enlightened you a little bit about Japan, the upcoming game. We'll probably talk about all that more as time goes on, but thank you once again for being here with me, and I'll see you in another reality.